Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics. First, the highlights. President Bola Tinubu attends Paris summit where he's expected to sign a new global financial pact for vulnerable countries. Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project to sue President Tinubu's government over President and Governor's 114% salary increase. Plus, Governor of Bayelsa State, Joy Adiri, advocates for amendment of Petroleum Industry Act to address the flaws in the legislation. Warm welcome to the program. I'm Millicent Walker in Lagos. We begin with President Bola Tinubu, who arrived at the Paris summit where he's expected to sign a global financial pact that places vulnerable countries on the priority list for support and also investment following the devastating impact of climate change, energy crisis and COVID-19. When he arrived, he was greeted and received by French Minister of Europe and Foreign Affairs, Catherine Colonna. According to the Special Advisor to the President on Special Duties, Communication and Strategy, Mr. Dede Alake, no less than 4 foreign leaders have requested to meet with the President during the summit organized by President Emmanuel Macron. Among the countries expressing interest to expand economic cooperation with Nigeria, France, the United States and Switzerland. He also adds that the President wants to network with international finance corporations and countries that would facilitate direct foreign investment into Nigeria.
The President wants to network with international finance corporations, institutions, countries that are well-heeled, that would facilitate or that could facilitate direct foreign investment into Nigeria. Don't forget that Mr. President has taken some very bold steps in the area of economy, in the area of social engineering in the last 3 weeks. Mr. President's policies in the last 3 weeks really have encouraged these foreign nations and investors to become more interested in the affairs of Nigeria, in shoring up the economy of Nigeria. So a lot of them are quite interested. So many of them have even indicated interest to meet with Mr. President in this trip. Just upstairs now we were, having a meeting with the President on, structuring some of these meetings with heads of states. At the last count, about 3-4 different heads of states of developed countries have indicated willingness to meet with him, have a chat with him, and explore areas of cooperation on the economy, on agriculture, on other areas that are salient to the development of Nigeria's economy.
We'll bring you more about that summit taking place in France. But staying with international engagements with Nigeria, the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, has called for a stronger relationship between Nigeria and the United Kingdom, given the long-standing historical antecedents, business activities and shared interests between the two countries. He also advocated the creation of a Nigeria-UK binational commission to drive future engagements. The new British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. Richard Montgomery, also used the opportunity to clarify on the issue of granting UK student visas to Nigerians, stating that managing visitor numbers and migration to the UK is a responsible thing to do. He was speaking with State House correspondents after a closed-door meeting yesterday with Vice President Kashim Shettima at the State House.
That issue was not raised in the meeting just now, but I would like to put the media debate about this in wider context. So last year, for example, the UK granted 3 million new visas, of which 325,000 of those visas were to the UK, between Nigeria and UK. So Nigerian visitors constitute over 10% of the people coming to London and the UK. On the issue of student visas, I'd also just like to provide the context that the number of Nigerian students coming to the UK has increased 5-fold in the last 3 years. It's a fantastic success story for our universities, and we're really delighted that so many Nigerians are coming to the UK. The issue about restrictions on people bringing dependents That's partly because not just from Nigeria, but from many parts of the world, many more students are trying to bring their dependents with them. And I think that there are two issues here. The first is it's not always possible to find the housing and services to meet all the needs of all our existing student population. And secondly, I think reasonable people would accept that we have to manage our visitor numbers and that we have to manage migration in and out of the UK, just as the Nigerian government does for your own borders.
And while many Nigerians may understand the positive long-term impact of the removal of fuel subsidy and the single currency exchange regime, they still worry that the infrastructure and policies required to ensure the success of the plans are still lacking. However, the newly inaugurated National Economic Council has been mandated to work at palliatives, but how well to cushion the impact of fuel subsidy removal on Nigerians? Our State House correspondent Kayla Migwa has more.
With an inflation rate of 22.41%, a debt profile hitting 77 trillion naira, and an unemployment rate expected to hit 40.6% this year. These men seated here at the council chambers of the State House in Abuja have an enormous task ahead of them. They make up the National Economic Council, headed by the Vice President, Kashim Shettima. The National Economic Council, or NEC, established by Section 153, subsection 1, and paragraphs 18 and 19, Part 1 of the third schedule of the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, is headed by the Vice President and has the 36 state governors, the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and other co-opted government officials as members. The National Economic Council meets once a month and is tasked with advising the President concerning the economic affairs of the Federation and measures necessary for the coordination of the economic planning efforts or economic programs of the various governments of the Federation.
National Economic Council is hereby inaugurated.
As President Bola Tinubu inaugurates the Council, he's clear on their marching orders.
We must harness the growth potential of Nigeria and bring about serious development to bring us from a potential nation to a pragmatic economic development in a rapid manner.
One of the main deliberations on the first NEC meeting is the issue of palliatives for Nigerians to cushion the impact of the removal of fuel subsidy, a decision that has been criticized by organized labor, who believe palliatives should have been in place before the subsidy removal. Negotiations are still underway. For the Nigerian, these are hard times. Transporters in Abuja's popular Utako Motor Park explain their ordeal.
Going to Kano alone, vehicle will buy fuel of 60,000 naira. Kaduna alone, driver will now go and come back. A fuel of go and come, 60,000. Kano Kuma, if you want to go and come, that's 120,000. So when you look at the money, you can see the driver will collect money from the passenger, and the passengers too are complaining.
Another policy by the Tinubu administration causing ripples in the polity is a single forex exchange policy.
I can say that from...
Chris is an importer of lace materials. He sells his wares at the Garki International Market. He doesn't see how the policy will benefit him unless Nigeria begins to produce and sell what he sells.
Most of the things we have in these shops are imported, you know, but if we start producing some of these things in this country, it will help the economy to grow, because most of the dollars we try to send out to get most of the things we consume in the country will reduce.
A financial expert, Chijoke Kechiku, is concerned about the non-inclusion of the private sector in the National Economic Council for a more balanced outlook of the state of the economy. He doesn't believe that the way of palliatives for the Nigerian people is the best approach. He believes the council should investigate revenue generation and target inflation triggers.
What are those drivers of our inflation rate? What are those things that are making it to grow? we have to identify them, and there are many of them that we already know about. The exchange rate is one of them. The insecurity is another. The cost of electricity and cost of petroleum product is another.
Other experts believe particular sectors of the economy are in dire straits and need the immediate attention of the National Economic Council, particularly the need for mass transport vehicles powered by compressed natural gas and uniting against corruption.
They can jointly take a vow to minimize the money which they are misappropriating and mismanaging at the state level, because they are. Compressed natural gas is still under 200 or 150 naira per liter or thereabout, and it can provide cheap transport.
Meanwhile, the National Economic Council at its very first meeting is on board with the production of CNG mass transit buses. Council members also agreed that palliatives to cushion the impact of the fuel subsidy removal are necessary.
They gave us a scenario recommending that there should be an adjustment, consequential adjustment, estimated at 702 billion to 919 million 8 naira as part of the allowances that should be given as petroleum allowance to all workers, and as well as a 23 or to 45 billion monthly offer to cushion the effect to workers.
What should these palliatives be? Will they be distributed fairly? Is the word palliative a trigger to the Nigerian who's been hearing about palliatives for years and never received any? In a few weeks, the National Economic Council will be clear on what direction they will be going in this regard. Kayla Magwa, Channels Television News.
Well, a political economist, Ayodeji Oluboge, joins me now for more on especially the president's program in France. Welcome to the program. I'd like to begin, and this is to get your thoughts first on the steps we're seeing the president has taken concerning the economy. Some people have referred to it as bold. Others have said it's hard times that's facing Nigerians under the President Tinubu administration.
President Tinubu's visit to France is that's the first visit you will realize, and his visit to the meeting for the Global Financial Summit is to ensure that he can shore up Nigerian foreign exchange. He's gone there to network with other international finance corporation, and then this will complement his the financial policies that he has. He's been president for almost 3 weeks now, and there are various policies that he has made that is looking positive. Then his visit will improve foreign direct investments. There will be FDIs, and when the FDIs come in, they will inject fresh capital into the economy, and this will help in building and complement what domestic policies that Tinubu have been doing. This will complement them.
But Mr. Yolowo, it seems that you agree that, these are bold steps the president is taking and making. But the harsh reality is that there are hard times facing Nigerians at the moment, and this is also following the policies or steps that he has taken. How does he plan to address this? And that's the question a number of people are asking.
Well, in policies, we have the policies that the benefits are short-term, some are long-term. For what he's doing now by going to France for the financial meeting is to ensure that he work on the long-term policies. In as much as in the short-term, people might feel that, what he's doing, they are not really benefiting. But let's just wait another 1 year. We'll be reaping the benefits of the policies that he is making, because the policies are positive and will drive the economy in the nearest future. When I'm saying long term is not, I'm not saying 5 years. In the less than 1 year, we're benefiting the benefits of most of these policies that he's making now.
Are there any particular sectors or industries that you expect will receive maybe additional attention, investment under this government?
I don't get that.
Do you think that there are perhaps additional areas, sectors that will receive some sort of additional attention under this government? Attention, more investment?
Yes. Funny thing about before the last administration, before they ended, we've been hearing issues on borrowing. But from what Tinubu is doing, what President Tinubu is doing is, it's not that we will not borrow, but people will willingly bring their money to Nigeria. And once there's foreign direct investment, that shows that our foreign exchange will show up because there will be more dollar inflow, there are more funds from abroad. The only reason, and then when there is less insecurity, there's less pressure on the economy, people that have cash in other economy will bring it to Nigeria because business is all about making money. This is where they can double their money. And while they are bringing their investment here, as they're doubling their money, they're helping and growing our economy.
Are very optimistic about this visit. We'd like to thank you for shedding more light on the summit and the expectations for Nigerians. Many thanks, political economist Ayodeji Olugboge. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
In the meantime, the presidential election petition court is continuing hearing in the petition of the People's Democratic Party and its presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, challenging the victory of President Bola Tinubu. The party is expected to call as many witnesses as possible since it will close its case today. That is ongoing at the moment. So far, the PDP has called 25 witnesses, leaving an outstanding 75. Counsel to the party, Chris Uche, says he will try to make it a round figure of 30. While he tendered documents saying that it will take the place of the remaining witnesses. Appearances, we understand, are ongoing. We're going on a break now. When we return, we have more political stories. Do stay with us. Welcome back. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, says it is suing President Bola Tinubu's administration over the contentious proposed pay rise for top government officials. SERAP announced this in a tweet on the microblogging site Twitter. It reads in part, "We're suing the Tinubu administration over its outrageous and illegal 114% increase in the salaries of the president, vice president, state governors and lawmakers, while over 133 million Nigerians live in extreme poverty." Now, recall that the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission had recommended an increase in the basic salaries of those holding judicial and political office. However, it also reports that these are also reports that they have denied. They said that they did not make that approval. They haven't received an approval for the increment of salaries of political office holders, judicial and public office holders by 114%. They said that President Tinubu has not given approval for that. The salary increment remark was made by a federal commissioner of the commission representing the RMAFC chairman at the presentation of the reports of the reviewed remuneration package to the Kebbi State governor in Kebbi State. Well, to talk more about this, Mr. Kolawole Oluwadare, Deputy Director at SERAP, joins me now virtually. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon. I'm happy to be here.
Great to have you. So is SERAP threatening to sue, or have you decided to sue as a matter of fact? Have you confirmed that the increase will go ahead?
Of course, Millicent, we will go ahead with this lawsuit. The only thing that can stop this now, if the legality prevails and the federal government stops and does not apply this new recommendation by the Revenue Mobilization and Allocation of Fiscal Commission, because as it is still a recommendation by the Revenue Mobilization and Allocation of Fiscal Commission. If this is not implemented, like we've asked and called on the government not to do, then there will be no need for litigation. But if government goes ahead to do what we've seen as something that is not only manifestly unlawful, given the provisions of the Constitution, and also the reality of our economy, and also in every moral sense, then we will go ahead to institute a public interest litigation to compel the government to act in the best of interest of Nigerians as they are sworn in their various sort of offices and even the relevant laws.
One wonders, that what could have informed the decision of the commission, and that is to raise the salaries to such a percentage. But, you mentioned the economic realities, and this is a hike that affects everyone, including the politicians. So when we look at it, what the NLC is asking for, what the TUC is asking for, what maybe the private sector also wants, doesn't everyone deserve a salary increase at this stage?
I really do not see any justification for the review by way of increase. If at all there's going to be a review, it has to be downward, and these have been made clear by Nigerians and even by SERAP to the Revenue Allocation Mobilization Fiscal Commission over the years. So it is not in doubt that the Commission has the powers to review salaries and allowances of political office holders and judicial officers, but the same Constitution, that is the second schedule that gives the RAMFAC these duties, also compels RAMFAC to do other things, which includes that they must consider the economic income of Nigeria. And looking at the context, the realities that we are presently, rising inflation, rising employment, the recent removal of subsidies, the high rate of corruption and the high debt profile of the country, these cannot be the right time to increase, by way of review, the allowances of political office holders. That of judicial officers is most welcome. That is consistent with the advocacy that SERAP had put up over the years. And we do have a case pending in court where we are seeking an order to compel the government to increase the salaries and allowances of judicial officers, which hasn't been done since 2007. But that is a totally different thing from that of political office holders, which in this instance would mean the president, the vice president, the governors, and their deputy. It is not rational. And when you understand the context of the earnings of these political office holders, you would understand that an increase in the allowances and salaries is not necessary at all. The president and governors, they get what is called security votes, which is even has no, and I'm giving an example here, which has no basis in law, and it runs to millions of naira every year. And we're talking about pension laws also that accrues to both the president and the vice president, even the governors and the deputies, when they do leave office. This again amounts to millions of naira that accrues to these individuals every year. So there is no justification at all for RAMFAC to have proposed this review and for the president to accept this review. It would not be consistent with the oath of office of the president, who has sworn to use power for the interest of Nigerians and to ensure that everything it does in the best interest and welfare of Nigerians. It is going to be very hard to justify this increase, either in terms of law, morality, or even in the economic sense.
We'll continue to look at, the decisions that they make as it affects Nigerians. We'd like to thank you, Mr. Kolawole Oluwadare, the Deputy Director at SERAP. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We'll move on to other stories. A civil society group under the aegis Sincere Concern organization is giving the governor of Imo State 1 month to implement fully the white paper report on the Commission of Inquiry on Contract Awards, looting of Imo assets and recovery of stolen property. It says it's worth 130 billion naira during the tenure of former governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha. Addressing a press conference in Owerri, the state capital, the representative of the group says it's unfortunate that those that allegedly looted the assets and money of the state are still walking free and even planning to return to power by proxy. The governor of Bayelsa State, Senator Doye Diri, has advocated for an amendment of the Petroleum Industry Act in order to address the flaws in the legislation. Governor Diri said the review would go a long way in tackling the ongoing crisis between oil companies and their host communities. Describing the act as a time bomb, the governor opined that since the country operates a federal system, it is an aberration for the federal governments to deal directly with oil-producing communities while excluding the states and the local governments.
We are happy that at least we have a Petroleum Industry Act that will now guide the industry. However, we have seen a lot of flaws even before the act was assented to. And at that point, I referred to that act as a time bomb. That after that act has been assented to, we will still have further very serious crisis between the oil-producing communities and the oil companies, and by extension, the government. And one of such indications is that the federal government in that act has successfully excluded the state governments and the local governments, and they are dealing directly with the communities. And just recently, we have started seeing crisis between the communities and the oil companies about signing of MOUs and who should speak on behalf of the communities.
Into other stories now. Former President Goodluck Jonathan arrived Freetown, Sierra Leone's capital, ahead of the country's general election scheduled for June 24. The former president is leading the West African Elders Forum. In a statement by his communications officer, Wealth Ominabo, the delegation also includes Kadri Godrego, former Burkinabe Prime Minister, a one-time president of the Economic Community of West African States. He said the forum, through the visit, aims to encourage and support a peaceful democratic transition in Sierra Leone. Also, Governor Babatunde Sanwo-Olu on Wednesday received an audience his Abia State counterpart, Alex Oti, at the State House in Marina. And this was made known by the governor through a statement shared on his Twitter handle. The reason for the meeting was not known, but Governor Sanwo-Olu reveals that he had a productive discussion with Mr. Oti of the Labour Party regarding the growth and development of Abia State and also Lagos State. You've been served lunch this hour. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Bye for now.